PGA Tour winner, Mr. Sam Snead, this week. What's really interesting to me is whenever you go back and look at different eras, you'll actually see a trend of patterns that happen. In the 1950s, a lot of these older golfers had closed alignments within their feet and then really big hip turns early. Now, when you'll do this, obviously, the more you rotate, the more you pull all of the variables around you. So what you'll see with a lot of golfers back then is a club head that tracks way inside. Golfers nowadays will look at this and obviously look to change it because they consider this a death sentence. That wasn't the case back then. So you'll see, trail arms that are trapped behind the body. You'll see the club head that's tracking way inside. And then because they're aligned closed and they're making this really big hip turn, just look at how deep the hand path was getting for some of these golfers back then, right? This pattern here, the hand path is literally behind his back by the time his lead arm is parallel to the ground. Right now, as he continues to rotate and lift the club up in the air from being really flat early, he's going to tip the shaft across the line, which is very common, especially when you're making that big of a turn and you're aligned close to the target. Now, some people used to call these swings over the top. I personally hate that phrase because I find it to be way too general, and I've heard golfers use it in too many different contexts. I'm a big believer of being specific when we're talking about golf swings. What some people consider over the top really is in reference to his hand path, right? If you look at the path that his hands have traveled on throughout this golf swing, they get really deep early. They stand up later when the hips stop rotating, and then the hand path is going to kick aggressively back in front of him as he rotates in the downswing. So the path of the hands is tracking this way. Now, obviously, they're referring to the fact that they were really flat and low in the backswing and then out in front of him on the way down. But I wouldn't call this over the top for the very simple reason that the shaft plane is kicking back behind the hands. The shaft is obviously getting very, very shallow coming down. You can see it kind of get down that trail forearm here. And then late in the downswing, it tracks inside of the path of the hands. So he's actually swinging marginally from the inside by, this type of visual, but he's rotating well enough to where he doesn't get stuck. When you're going to have the hands be this deep and behind you early in the backswing, you got to get them back in front of you. He does it extremely well through his pivot. So obviously a lot of the golfers back then used to rotate extremely well and retain their posture through the ball. That's why you'll see a shaft plane that exits really low and obviously matching the spinal tilt, which is really solid, and retaining some really good side bend and posture through the ball here. But what's interesting really is that, back in this era, people did not consider this a death sentence, and that certainly would be the case nowadays.